Man, I don't know. Allison's a good one, because I would have rumored my ass right to some equality. What's good, everybody? RJ here from the Silver Site, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Umbrella Academy Season 2 in spoiler fashion. So, if you have not seen Season 2 yet in its entirety, I urge you to pause this video and come back to it once you've completed Season 2. I won't be talking about everything because I'm trying to keep this video short, but I still don't want to ruin anything for anyone, so please watch this after you finish Season 2. Alright, with that being said, let's jump right into it. This season is about, the premise of the season is at the end of Season 1, the world is ending and five time travels to the past in order to try and stop this from happening again and to escape the apocalypse. However, it goes wrong as usual, and his siblings end up scattered within different years in 1960s Dallas. Five arrives November 25th, 1963 to find his siblings battling against the Soviet soldiers. An elderly Hazel appears and him and Five escape before the world is destroyed by nuclear weapons. Hazel explains that the apocalypse was that was the apocalypse, and the Hargreaves siblings have 10 days to go back and stop this apocalypse from happening. In the process of explaining that, three Swedish soldiers show up and they kill Hazel. Five manages to escape and ends up at the house of a man named Elliot, who has been monitoring the alleyway as Five and his siblings arrive in 1960s Dallas. Five probably is the most sensible and closest character to how I feel I would react if I was in their shoes. At least I feel that way. He knows how serious all of this is, and he knows that they have to pull together to ensure the world does not end. You know, he ends up working with Elliot, a conspiracy UFO, big government, lizard, Illuminati, lizard people theorist, and who actually saw everyone land in the alley in the 1960s. And I like Elliot and Five partnership because they definitely needed each other to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Elliot was such a character, and he had a lot of organically funny moments and reactions to things, and I don't know, it just really got me invested as a character, and I really connected with him, and I felt for him, and I was really sad when they killed him off. Spoiler alert. But Five probably is one of my favorite characters. That man is ruthless. I almost forgot how deadly he was. I almost forgot that this man was an assassin because he was so busy putting up with everybody else's bullshit. He had to, when he went to go kill the board of directors, I don't know, it just was like a merciless, emotionless killing. He knew what he had to do. He came there to kill, and he did it, flawlessly. And I just the execution of that scene to me was crazy. I just love to see, Five fight. It kills me. That man plays no games, and I'm down with everything Five does. He wants to save the world, and for some reason, he's having the hardest time getting his siblings to understand that they need to put all of their feelings aside, and whatever they were doing since they landed, in this time period, they need to put all that aside and save the world. He's dealing with Diego for some reason, who is obsessed with saving President Kennedy. Luther, who doesn't care and is moping around all sad and sensitive. Klaus, who is more of a liability than an asset to anyone sometimes. Vanya, who has no clue what's going on due to amnesia, and then Allison, who's useful to a certain extent. Five basically is acting like the glue that holds everyone together this season, and that man, he's stressed, and I get it. When you're the only one who's focused and who has blinders on and was trying to get things done, man, I don't know how Five did it. I just would have cursed everyone flat out. It's like there was like a gas leak in 1960, and no one seemed to have any kind of common sense but Five sometimes, and I really resonate with Five. All right, so now let's get to Ben and Klaus. Klaus's storyline is very Klaus, for lack of a better word. He's been traveling the world, scamming people, starting and recruiting people into a cult called Destiny's Child. Like, when he said that, Klaus is wild, man. That's the best way to describe Klaus. I love Klaus's character. He's been, been doing all that stuff, and basically, torturing Ben, who's been stuck with Klaus since, they were teenagers. Basically, Klaus was being Klaus, and he was on his Klaus shenanigans the whole time, and I loved every second of it. They ended up still in a car at one point, and Klaus lands in prison, and he meets Allison's husband. But I don't know. I liked how this season Ben stood up to Klaus and decided to stop helping him with certain things when it comes to his shenanigans. But Klaus still, had his little childish moments here and there. He even, told his siblings that Ben's not there because Ghost can't time travel. Bro, Klaus is a trip, man. But he really had a hard time, letting go of the past this season. His past love for Dave, who he fell in love with during the time jump in season one, who died in Vietnam. He found him. He tried to stop him from enlisting because he knew what Dave's fate was. Which I get. You love someone, you want to protect them to a certain point. I would have liked for someone to mention the consequences of altering the past. To Klaus, I just thought it was funny that even Ben, didn't really bring up, hey, well, you don't know what you're gonna mess up if you tell him not to enlist. You don't know how this is gonna affect the future. But I get they had to do it for the sake of story progression. I get it, whatever. I don't know, but I did feel bad for Ben not being able to interact with his family. There was a scene where Allison, Vanya, and Klaus went for tacos, and he said, "I really miss you guys." I don't know. That just kind of, man, that kind of like tugged on my heartstrings. But I don't know. Klaus, as always, did a Klaus job, and I don't know. I really enjoyed Klaus this season. All right, so now let's get on Diego, bro. Diego had to be probably the most annoying to me this season. Just the most frustrating to watch on screen. Diego's storyline this season centers around him having a hero complex as usual. After landing in 1962, he stops a robbery and sees President Kennedy on TV, and then he realizes that he's here in enough time where he could possibly stop the assassination of President Kennedy. He ends up in an asylum after attempting to kill Lee Harvey Oswald, who was the person who actually shot Kennedy. Five shows up and tells him that that's not what they need to focus on. He tells him that there's going to be a nuclear apocalypse, and Diego's probably one that caused it by saving the president. And Diego's reaction was like, I knew I could do it. And I don't know, I thought to myself, what? This man just told you that there's a possibility that by you saving President Kennedy, you caused the end of the world this time. And that was your reaction? That was your reaction? I don't know. Diego's hero complex, it runs deep, man. We said it a few times in season 2. He probably got on my nerves the most, if I'm being honest, this season. I don't know. He was just obsessed with stopping Kennedy. At one point, Five, tells the guards that Diego's trying to escape, and they end up putting him in a padded room, but he ends up escaping with the help of another inmate, Lila. And I'm gonna get to Lila's ass in a minute, but we're gonna get back to Diego. Kind of skip around. We're gonna kind of focus on Diego right now. But he has blinders on this season. I just want to punch his lights out several times. They could literally be talking about the world being blown up, and then he starts rambling on about Kennedy. Like, bro, chill out. You're just let it play out, let history, go on and do what it's always done. And like, what would possess you to think that it was okay to alter the timeline in such a drastic manner as to stop the assassination of a president? I don't know. He was mad heavy on saving Kennedy, and I don't know. And that was the domino effect that caused the apocalypse. I don't know, but he also ends up falling for Lila before he realizes that something's wrong with her. We learn that she's been working with the handler, who was also her adopted mother, which I don't see how he didn't know something was up with her. I just didn't trust her. I didn't trust her when she popped the shoulder back into place. Right there, I would have been like, who sent you? I don't know. You're doing a little too much, man. But I did feel bad for Diego when he went to talk to his father about the assassination. His father went off on him and left him stuttering like he was a child again. But still, sit your ass down, Diego. Damn, man. Now let's talk about Vanya. Vanya, shortly after falling through the portal, is hit by a car and loses her memory. And the only thing she can remember is her name. She has no recollection on how she got there, who she is, or even that she has power. She lost her memory just totally. Vanya's storyline really had to be my least favorite this season, and it's only because personally, I don't care for any type of amnesia storyline in TV shows, movies, games, etc. I don't know. It's just something that's always been off-putting to me, and I just found it boring even as a kid. When a cartoon came on and it was an amnesia episode, tongue twister, I always found something else to do. Even as an adult, I don't know. I just can't. I don't like it. I was watching Harold on Hulu the other day, and the episode came on where Helga lost her memory, and I just scrolled social media until it was over. But anyway, Vanya ends up working as a nanny and living on a farm for this woman named Sissy and her husband Carl. And that Sissy's the woman who actually hit her with her car. And Sissy has a nonverbal son, And as I said, she's married to a generic, insensitive, frail, ego, sexist, misogynistic, selfish, and more than likely racist, one-dimensional 60s breadwinning husband. I don't know. What I liked about the seasons, we got to see Vanya have a blank slate. She was so far gone at the end of season one and so riddled with guilt for what she did, in terms of slicing um, Allison's throat and destroying the moon. This season was kind of a rebirth for her, a fresh start, a blank slate, and all around we got to see her uplift and encourage Sissy to live in her truth, stand up for herself. Women didn't have as much of a voice and as much power as they do in 2019/2020. So seeing her encourage Sissy to be, true to herself and kind of shred that timidness that she had. I really enjoyed seeing Vanya in that kind of a counseling, friend, big sister kind of aspect. At one point they were talking and Sissy stated her dream was to be a counterpart Neiman Marcus. And it just, I don't know, and she just thought they were elegant. And I don't know, and she just went from a timid 1960s, mousy housewife to this empowered, confident woman who found a voice. And she put up with a lot from Carl. So I was glad when he got shot, to be honest. I don't know, I just wasn't a fan of Carl. I'm pretty sure nobody was. But the growth was very natural and it wasn't forced. Her growth arc was written really, really well. Vanya's arc was also about mending her relationship with her siblings. Being that she had no memory, I don't know if her siblings were more inclined to forgive her once they realized she wasn't a monster and she was just hurt. Maybe being separated helped them realize that they loved her in spite of blowing up the moon and cutting her sister's throat out of anger. Maybe her being amnesed. I'm not sure if that's a word, but it's gonna be a word today. Maybe maybe that helped them see how they treated her growing up and even into adulthood. I don't know. It's probably a combination of guilt and forgiveness. Either way, I'm glad to see they're working past their problems. Allison's story was deep this season. It resonated with me for personal reasons, obviously. But we get to see her learn who she is without having to rely on her powers to be successful and get what she wants out of life. She's working in a beauty salon and is a civil rights activist. What happened was she landed in 1961 and she ran into a diner and she's met with hostility when she realizes that she's in a different time and it's a whites only diner. She leaves the diner and is approached by a group of men who are taunting her and following her. Things get physical and she runs for her life. She ends up running into a salon where the women protect her. And I really thought that was dope that when she walked in there scared and afraid, the black women, stood behind Vanya. Well, we got in front of her actually and protected her. I really thought that was dope just to see, black women protecting other black women. Because they were gonna hurt her, they were gonna probably kill her, whatever. It was gonna, whatever was gonna happen wasn't gonna be pretty. So I'm glad that they protected her like that. And in there, and doing that, she starts working, sweeping up hair. She meets her husband and ends up getting involved in the civil rights movement that way. I liked Alice's storyline the most because of how she was a black woman from 2019, learning how to function and adjust without her powers of manipulation in the 1960s when things were terrible for black people, worse than they are now for black people. She earned everything she had and she was so proud of not using her powers that even when she should have used them, she didn't. I don't know. I know if I had her powers, I'd be rumoring the hell out of every racist, especially during their nonviolent sit-ins. That man dumped hot coffee into her lap, poured sugar in her hair, yelled terrible racist things at them, and she still didn't use her powers. But I do like the fact that eventually she embraced her powers and started using them to her advantage. When she made that man pour hot coffee in himself, and then when she went on that shopping spree, I was like, I was down with it. I was like, that's more like it, Allison. Rumor your way to equality. One thing I didn't get though is why didn't she just say, I have brothers but we haven't spoken in years. So you got married and didn't think to mention you had a family in case someone showed up one day. I don't know. That's the one thing about Allison's storyline just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, was you got married, didn't mention any family, and you knew there was a possibility that somebody may show up one day. May not be today, may not be tomorrow, but somebody could show up at any time, and you just felt the neglect that you had any siblings at all. Luther ends up landing in 1962, working as a bodyguard, and is working as a bodyguard for the mobster Jack Ruby, the man who shot Oswald. He really didn't have much of an arc this season in terms of him having anything exciting. He was the same overly sensitive Luther he was in season one. I don't know. He held on to everything the most out of all the siblings. At one point, he sees Vanya, and he doesn't even immediately run to her. I mean, I get he's mad at her for nearly killing Allison, but at some point, man, you gotta let it go. You're literally in the past and still can't let go of these things. I don't know. It just made any sense. But eventually, he did find her and apologize to her for not helping her when he should have, not being there for her. And things that they should have been apologized for, honestly. But Luther's arc this season wasn't really anything too heavy as it was in season one. And I'm okay with that because everyone else had enough to do this season. So it wasn't like I was clamoring for more screen time for Luther because I got enough of him in season one. But he was still relevant, but didn't really have anything major going on aside from his torment over his sister girlfriend, and admitting his relationship with Vanya because he was the one who squeezed her until she passed out in season one. So it was nice to see him, try to work in a relationship with the one sister he didn't want to sleep with. Luther had a few good comedic moments here and there this season. The laughing gas scene with Elliot had me on the floor, man. They were high as hell off that laughing gas. I don't know, laughing gas always scares me or makes me uncomfortable because I have like flashbacks to the dentist when I was a kid and I hated the dentist. But yeah, it was nice to see Luther not angry or cry for once. He was still annoying and overly sensitive though, but I do like the fact that he finally stood up to his father for once, and just stood his ground. So I thought that was dope. All right, now I want to talk about the antagonist for a minute, the handler and Lila. Apparently, the handler did not die in season one. I remember Hazel shooting her in the head, but I guess thanks to a metal plate in her head, she survived. She returned to work only to be met with her boss, who's a fish in a bowl who smokes. I don't know. I gotta read the comments. I didn't understand that. But basically, he told her she was demoted, and this is what I be talking about, y'all. You can get shot in the head for your company and still get demoted. This is exactly what my generation will use our PTO without hesitation for no reason. You can literally be shot in the head and demoted or replaced like it's nothing. You don't matter. Use your PTO. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. The handler be on some shit for real, but I mean, I loved every second of her bullshit. I was here for it. I knew I've been knew she wasn't shit before, but now I really like her. But I don't like her. I don't know. Does that make any sense? I guess what I'm trying to say, if playing chess and not checkers was a person, it would literally be the handler. I mean, she schemed, plotted, planned, finessed the hell out of everyone in her life, man. We learned that she actually was the one who killed Lila's parents because she knew Lila was special. The fish boss had referred to incident, I think 743, where she went along and with Five and killed Lila's parents, and it was revealed that she was the one that orchestrated it all. She was the mastermind, the puppet master behind the whole thing. All just to get Lila. I liked her as a villain because she wasn't just some generic, dastardly, evil woman who was cool for the sake of being cool. She had goals, and she took certain steps and made certain sacrifices to get, what she wanted done. I don't know, she's just very good at playing the long game. I really wasn't too shocked when they revealed Lila was working with the handler and that she was actually adopted, for lack of a better term, more like kidnapped by the handler. I mean, she popped Diego's shoulder in place, hot-wired a car, cauterized a stab wound, and knew how to fight. I don't know, I just knew she wasn't who, I knew Lila wasn't who she said she was pretending to be. But I definitely didn't put two and two together that she was the daughter of the handler. I just knew for a fact that she wasn't a normal person. Which now that I think about it, it's pretty obvious, but go figure. But yeah, I really like the antagonist this season. I do miss Hazel and Cha-Cha, but I really enjoyed the handler and Lila. All right, so now I just want to talk about some, random pros and cons for season 2, things I liked and things I didn't like. I really like the fact that we got a deeper look into Reggie Hargrove's life before the Umbrella Academy and all the weird experimental things he did. We learned a little bit more about him and got to see that he's a little more motive-driven character than I initially thought, as opposed to just a randomly cruel father figure who used to drive a wedge of trauma in between his children. We saw that he was a scientist who worked to further technological and scientific advances, etc. And for me, what that kind of did was it made me realize that he didn't really see his children as children. He saw them more so as experiments, and that's kind of why they never got the love that they craved, and the attention that fatherly bond that they craved with him. To him, they were just experiments. I don't really think he loved them. I think he just wanted to kind of perfect them. But yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of seeing, more or a deep look into Reggie Hargrove. I really enjoyed also the reveal that Lila was powered. I like the fact that they held that until kind of like her final scenes. We got to see her mirror Vanya's powers. She, I guess, wiped out a whole field of agents, and Lila mirrored that and, threw it right back at her. She tossed a tractor, I think, on Luther or Diego. I can't remember who it was. She rumored the hell out of Allison when Allison grabbed her from behind and said, "I heard a rumor," and then she finished her sentence, was like, finished her sentence and said that you can't breathe, and almost killed Allison. Klaus was a real star to me this season. I like that they didn't do too much with pushing his character traits that made him likable. I know sometimes when a character becomes a fan favorite, they tend to overdo what makes them a fan favorite. That's why I really didn't like Margot from The Magicians towards the last few seasons, because she just started cursing more and more and just saying more and more outrageous things for the sake of being outrageous. She went from having unintentionally funny lines here and there to trying to say something funny or crazy every time she opened her mouth. And it just got annoying me for a while. So I'm really glad they let Klaus be Klaus, but didn't run his antics into the ground. Also, back to Reggie Hargrove, the reveal that man was an alien, I would have never guessed. I don't know, it just took me for a loop. I feel like that was probably one of the best twist endings I've ever seen as far as towards the season finale. And man, I was shook. I can't even front. The man took his mask off and revealed he was this weird, creepy, other alien life form, and just murked everybody in the room. That was probably the best, like I said, the best reveal of 2020. Now, as much as I loved it, there are things that I did not like. I didn't like how the siblings reacted when they found each other. Luther even said he thought everyone was dead, and when Five told him about the upcoming apocalypse and that they needed to find his other siblings, he said, "I don't give a shit." What? Now, I'm not that close with my sisters, but if we got teleported through time and I hadn't seen them for an entire year, I would have dropped everything and went on the hunt to find them. I just didn't understand the logic behind that. The fact that he didn't immediately run to Vanya right away after he saw Five, it just didn't sit right with me. Then at one point, Luther mentions to Allison that Five turned up, and she just nonchalantly was like, "Oh, well, that's when things normally go crazy." I don't know. If I had been alone for that long, and someone told me that my time traveling sibling had, showed up, I'd be like, "Yo, where's he at? Let's get this together right now. Let's figure out what we're gonna do." I don't know, but everybody was so calm about it. I don't know. It bugged me. It really did bug me. After everything I went through in season 1, I feel like they should have been a little bit more, I guess, eager to find each other and to get back. Now, the 3 Swedish assassins, this is what kind of irritated me too. They weren't interested in me at all, and they didn't really feel like a credible threat. They tried to make them silent and crazy, but for some reason it just didn't work for me. I wasn't scared for Five or Vanya or anybody at any time when they were being chased. Maybe if we had gotten some backstory as to flesh them out and just make them a little bit more villainous, I might have been a little more scared. But just seeing the aftermath of them cutting the lady's head off or putting it in the freezer, it was good for shock value, but it didn't make me think they were any more dangerous than a standard secondary seasonal villain. Silas from the Da Vinci Code was more intimidating in terms of silent, crazy blonde-haired, fair-skinned villains. Another thing I didn't really care for was the lack of consequences for interfering in time, or the fact that they didn't really talk about it. I feel like they stressed it a healthy amount in season 1, but it seemed like nobody was concerned with the consequences of how much they changed the future about what they did in the 1960s. But I understand why it was done that way, because the ending where they did the change to the present day, where the Umbrella Academy is now the Sparrow Academy. I get that they had to like not kind of mention the consequences in order to kind of save that fully reveal. I was just confused that they didn't just let nothing happen and just let Kennedy die. I just thought it was weird that Diego was so ready to just stop the assassination of President Kennedy, and no one was trying to drill the consequences into it. Every time he said it, they just kind of tried to direct his attention towards the apocalypse. But my thing is, no one tried to kind of lay out the domino effect that could cause. And I just thought it was weird that for them to have such an emphasis on not altering the past in season 1, and then now here we are season 2 when he's talking about altering a major event. They just, I don't know, they just didn't have enough urgency for me. I don't know. But yeah, those are some things I didn't like and things I liked about Umbrella Academy season 2. I know I said this was going to be a short video, but there's no way in hell that this was going to be a 5-minute review with all the stuff that happened in season 2. But yeah, so I guess that's it. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. My name is RJ from the Silver Site. Later days.